Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of the Old West Traveler. Today we're taking a step back into time to the year of 1839 in Texas to talk about the Colt Paterson gun. Well, let me tell you, there's a reason when you talk to folks about the Colt Paterson, they always seem to bring up Texas. You'd think it was made right here in the Lone Star State, but no, it was first put together up yonder in Paterson, New Jersey. Even though that gun saw action all over the world, it's Texas that gave it its real fame, and I'll tell you why. See, back in 1839, this fella by the name of Samuel Colt was just starting out, and he sold 180 of his Paterson revolvers to the Texas Navy. They came with 9-inch barrels and a handful of carbines too. When the Navy disbanded a few years later, the Rangers got their hands on those Colts, and that's when the legend really starts to take shape. Those Texas Rangers were some of the toughest fighters this land had ever seen. They'd each carry 2 or 3 of those Patersons along with a Bowie knife and a short rifle. They were ready for anything, and boy, did they prove it. Now, one of the stories that sticks out in my mind is from 1844. The fight on the Penderless River. A patrol of about 14 Rangers, led by Colonel Jack Hayes, got jumped by some 80 Comanche warriors. Most men in this situation would have been wiped out, but not Hayes and his boys. Nope. They used those Colt revolvers to turn the tide, and they sent those Comanches packing, leaving near half of them dead or dying in the field. That fight became so well known that Colt himself had it engraved on the cylinders of the later revolvers. You can see it on the Walkers, the Baby Dragoons, and the later Dragoon models. What made the Paterson such a game changer wasn't just that it could fire 5 shots without reloading. Now, though that sure helped, it was accurate too, thanks to its rifled barrel. The Rangers could hit targets at 200 yards, or so they said. Now, I reckon hitting anything that far out with a revolver seems far-fetched to most folks today, but back then, even a small wound at that range could be deadly, with what they had for primitive medicine and all. Back when it first came out, a new Paterson would run you about $40 to $50, and it came with some fancy accessories like an extra cylinder. That was pretty steep compared to other guns, like the pepper box pistol. Those sold for a fraction of the price, but they weren't nearly as accurate. Looked more like a pepper shaker than a gun, to tell you the truth, but they sold like hotcakes. Still, it was Colt's revolver, especially in the hands of those Texas Rangers, that really caught folks' attention. Now, it wasn't all smooth sailing for old Sam Colt. Nope. His company went under in 1842, mostly due to poor sales and some bad business decisions. They only managed to make around 2,850 Paterson revolvers, a bunch of revolving rifles and carbines, and a handful of shotguns before they shut her down. Some folks said those rifles didn't work so well in the swamps during the Second Seminole War down in Florida. But when you talk to a Texan back then, they'd swear by those Colts. Their praise outweighed any of the bad reports from those other places. So here we are, nearly 180 years later, and the folks are still talking about Texas when they talk about the Paterson Colt. Sure, that gun saw action in other places, but it was Texas that really gave it its place in history. It was the Texas Rangers who showed the world just what this revolver could do. And don't forget, it was Ranger Captain Sam Walker's idea that helped create the Walker Colt, which is one of the most famous revolvers ever made. So in a way, you could say Texas saved Sam Colt's business. Without these tough-as-nails frontiersmen giving the stamp of approval, who knows what might have happened. Well done, Texas. Well done indeed. Well, if you liked today's Old West Traveler episode, please make sure to give us a big like, and if you would, consider subscribing to our channel. Heck, if you have an idea about a future story that you've been thinking about and want to know the truth about it, leave us a comment down below and we'll get to you as soon as we can and talk about your subject. And until next time, folks, be good, and we'll see you on down the line.